what's up everybody, it's your boy Proftrof. I think it's time for your boy to get a fucking haircut. I haven't had a haircut in like 2 months. So yeah, we probably should get that shit soon. One second, fucking glasses and shit. Okay, whatever. Okay, yeah, my glasses are not fucking with the light today, so we Gucci. I can finally use the things I bought for protecting my eyes. Anyway, we're gonna be reacting to the Ultramarines explained by an Australian, okay? So the Ultramarines are supposed to be Smurfs. I read an article that one of y'all fucking linked me, and Ultramarines are basically Space Marines, but Mary suits. They're really strong, impossibly strong. They're even stronger, and they do some crazy shit. Even though they're not supposed to be that impressive, I don't think, lore-wise, but somehow they do some crazy shit. So let's check it out. And they're Guilliman's troops, right? Guilliman, the dead dude that Jesus'd up and is an alive dude and is banging an alien. Good shit.
What do you get when you combine money, plot armor, the color blue, but definitely not ultramarine blue, and repetitive bad jokes about Smurfs that weren't even funny to begin with? That's right, kids, you get the Ultramarines, the greatest marines in the galaxy. Logic and reason tremble before the might of Cornelius Calgar.
Okay, I need to clean my glass. One sec. Okay, let's get this shit.
Very large fist. The Ultramarines are so great that even when they lose, they still win. I have an Ultramarine live with me now in the studio. What's it like being an Ultramarine at Lego Tartia?
Oh, by the way, I remember I let y'all guys know that the first year I was in America, I worked at like 50 different jobs. Y'all recognize this shit? Liberty Donuts. I worked there for like 2 weeks. My boss was a cunt and didn't want to sign my check. Like not paycheck, but like a work contract, so I did not work there anymore. They make amazing donuts though.
Artists.
It's pretty great.
That's what I thought. G'day guys and gal. This video was a long time coming, but you know me, we like to do things a bit differently on this channel. It's always important to me to come up with fresh, exciting gags while avoiding the obvious ones. Hence, no Ultramarine in this video will be referred to as a Smurf or as Papa Smurf, as those jokes are actually quite shit and were never funny to begin with.
Smurf.
Instead, we'll poke fun of them in other ways, such as their fetish for Rome or the fact that they hilariously try to pretend they are less autistic than all the other Space Marines. That, or the idea of some old grumpy arsehole is able to swing around a big ass necrone pylon like a baseball bat, or beat an avatar of God of War in single combat.
What?
Jesus Christ, Marnelius isn't even a cool name. Despite my rantings, I will do my best to explain the entire lore and story of the Ultramarines over the next couple of videos, as well as their surprisingly cool Primarch, Rub Me Off Gull, my man. We will look at their origins as well as what they were up to during the Great Crusade, as well as the Horus Heresy. Let's get into it. When the Emperor decided he wanted to spank the galaxy into submission, he realized he needed the help of 20 or so demigod children, so he threw a couple shady deals
18
with some very questionable characters. The Big E jizzed into a bottle and made his children. Now Chaos wasn't super keen on getting spanked, so it yeeted the babies, called Primarchs, across the galaxy. Some Primarchs landed on really nice planets and lived privileged lives as white rich kids, and some Primarchs landed on shitty planets and got nails in their brains. Robert Baratheon was the former, as he landed on Macragge, a reasonably primitive world, but at least it got sunshine and no brain nails. It also had limited space travel, which meant that it wasn't full of superstitious cultists who praised gods that were most likely just hidden chaos. What I'm trying to say is that Gorilla Mum had it good, and he made it even better. Quickly maturing, this handsome man took control of Macragge and brought upon a new age of order and prosperity, all the while not becoming a furry or fucking anyone's dog. Glorious Man's father was also a pretty solid dude, attempting to give more power to the middle class and less to the aristocrats. However, this resulted in a civil war within the capital of Macragge, whilst Rowboat was wrecking some scrubs somewhere else. In the chaos, the Big R's father was killed, and G-Man went into a cold rage, massacring and executing the rebels and assuming leadership over Macragge. Over the next 5 years, Macragge and the local star systems flourished under the leadership of its new benevolent Aryan overlord, until the Big E came knocking. Big E was like, "Yo son, this is pretty dope, well done. Now come with me to
why does he have the Omega sign on his knee and
find
shoulder?
some big titty elder girlfriends." And Girly Man was like, titties. Hence he assumed the command of the...
Okay, why? Okay, I have a question for all my Warhammer 40k buddies. Why are y'all saying she's a big titty alien goddess or whatever? Big alien titty bitch. I googled that chick. She did not have big titties, okay? I was very disappointed.
The 13th Legion seamlessly, and so began an era of ridiculously overpowered Ultramarines who were blue, but ironically not Ultramarines.
Okay, so I read up a little bit on the Ultramarines, and from what I read, they're kind of garbage in melee combat, like comparatively to other Space Marines, but they're really good at, mid to long range combat. Holding lines, shooting guns and shit like that.
Marine blue.
I want to see if that's right
Unsurprisingly,
or
the
not.
Ultramarines gene seed was considered extremely stable upon its creation, and its recipients showed no unacceptable mutations because they inherited the Big E's greatest attributes, plot armor and steady sails. They were pretty boring in the early days of the Imperium as they just kind of tagged along on campaigns, pacifying worlds whilst displaying their usual poster boy personas of being not completely fucked in the head. They did show high aptitude for adaptation and imitation of enemy tactics, however. These versatilities were mocked by some of the other legions, who saw using tactics learned off lesser enemies to be, I quote, pretty gay. Amazingly, the Ultramarines did suffer one defeat before they reunited with their Primarch. A bunch of planets who seemed chill were suddenly not chill and rebelled against the Imperium. The
Not very
13th
chill,
Legion,
though.
aka our boys in blue, was sent to give them a spanking, and easily broke through their defenses and landed upon the planet. They quickly realized, however, that something was very wrong, as the entire population of the planet attacked them like a zombie horde, piling on and burying numerous marines. Oh, I just vomited in my mouth, that was disgusting. Sorry. As this occurred, an unknown xeno force attacked the fleet, causing massive destruction in this
What the fuck is
apocalyptic
that?
attack. The Ultramarines suffered only like 6,000 casualties or some shit, which was like less than 1/5 of their army and only 1/5 of their ships, which
That's
is
still a lot.
fuck all. The Legion were soon reunited with their Primarch.
I mean, compared to how much other legions lose in one of their, big losses, it's not that much, I guess, but still, 1/5 of your troops is a
Grew
decent
to
amount.
become the largest of the Space Marine legions due to their highly structured, low casualty policies and stable gene seed. Also, the fact that they never really lost helps. The Ultramarines soon expanded their core territory to around 500 worlds, naming this region Ultramar. Makes sense. Each Primarch embodied a distinct characteristic.
Talasar.
Makes sense.
Cool.
Each Primarch embodied a distinct characteristic of their father, the Big E. Some Primarchs have his strength while others have his psychic abilities, while the Big G inherited the Big E's supreme level of organizational skills and strategy, which when you compare it to Vulcan's immortality, Magnus's magical powers, the Khan's blinding speed, or Mortarion's durability, it seems a bit shit. But in truth, being literally the only dude in the entire universe who has the ability to think rationally makes Guilliman arguably the greatest Primarch to ever live, other than Sanguinius of course. Guilliman was a master strategist, with Corax even stating, the Raven Guard could beat the Ultramarines in a singular battle, but Guilliman would always win the war. Which isn't saying much considering the Raven Guard have been fucked in the ass by everyone and their mothers, but you get the point. However, despite his Legion success and legend, they were still salty about that one small defeat they suffered to those random xenos some years ago. Row your gulls man was sick of his son sulking, some years ago. Row your gulls man was sick of his son sulking, say that quick, sick of your son sulking. So he decided he would find those xenos and genocide the shit out of them. See, whilst RG was chill about some xenos, if they didn't have titties, they were to be destroyed. And these fuckers definitely...
That's usually the rule with Xenos, right? No TD is dead.
He was chill about some xenos, if they didn't have titties, they were to be destroyed. And these fuckers definitely did not have any titties. The battle was intense as shit, as the weird-ass hentai water vapor xenos mind-controlled orcs to fight their battle for them. Eventually, Guilliman himself confronted the Xeno leader, who was a gigantic blob of tentacles. It was a genuine Dark Souls boss, and Lord of Ultramar cleaved it, tentacle by tentacle, before performing a serious fatality on the thing, ripping its brain out and stomping on it. This badass act destroyed the rest of the Xenos, and got the Ultramarines their vengeance for like their only loss ever. Things were going swell. The Imperium was overpowered and everything they came across got their urethras fisted before the glorious might of the Emperor and his legions. Eventually a powerful threat emerged in the form of a massive fuck-off WAH! On the planet of Ullanor, which took the combined effort of 100,000 Space Marines and 8 million Guardsmen,
Major
as well as
kill.
multiple Primarchs and the
Well, we haven't seen Timmy yet. I want to see what's happening to Timmy now.
Emperor to beat. I don't want to sound like a downer, but just over 8 million warriors to take out the largest orc army ever recorded doesn't seem like much. Humanity tomorrow could muster an army in the hundreds of millions if we needed to, so it just seems like another situation of Games Workshop really fucking up their numbers. The orcs are beaten, and Daddy's favourite son Horus becomes the War Master of the Imperium, a decision that Gizzle was fine with and offered no resentment towards,
Gizzle.
even though Horus thought he did. Likely due to Horus's stat as an insecure bold cunt compared to Chad Guilliman with his superior Aryan genes.
And having hair.
As we know, Horus's autism caught up with him, and he declared jihad upon the Emperor. However, he knew the Ultramarines' ultra levels of cheese would be a massive problem for him if he wanted to beat the Imperium. Hence, before activating his trap card in the form of Istvan Dropsite Massacre, he formulated a plan with Lorgar on how to deal with them. See, Lorgar, another notorious bold cunt, had a tooth to pick with the blue G. Due to Lorgar being an annoying choir kid, the Big E psychically raped him and his sons, and nuked their favourite city, whilst the Ultramarines watched on. The Kitty Fiddlers attacked the Ultramarine planet of Calth, and massacred the Ultramarines there, pushing them
Horus
back
Heresy,
greatly,
no.
until Daddy G arrives, and brings down the pain train against those pedophilic cunts, scattering the word bearers off. However, the damage was done. Using dank-ass voodoo, the word bearers had created a warp storm so massive that it blocked the Ultramarines from reaching Terra in time for the final battle. Not to mention the casualty toll for the Ultramarines was nearly 150,000, which made the random Xeno attack look like nothing. Had the Ultramarines been present at Terra when the Big E fought Horus, it is very likely the Big E would have survived due to the Loyalists dominating the traitors. Remember, the Ultramarines were the largest legion in the galaxy. Well, at least they were until Lorgar happened, but Guilliman was one of, if not the greatest commander there was. However, they could not make it in time, so Guilliman instead decided that massacring Lorgar and Angron would be a suitable alternative. He gathered what ships he could and chased the Wordbearer fleet, which had met up with the World Eaters. Despite having damaged weaker ships, Guilliman's nerd boner for warfare shone through, and he first destroyed Lorgar's capital ship, allowing him and his sons to land directly upon the planet's surface and go to town.
Oi.
It's important to note that this battle
God damn, bruh.
directly upon the planet's.
I wasn't even listening. Jesus, look at what the fuck is happening. That was a
He
fucking
first
cool
destroyed
ass.
Lorgar's capital ship, allowing him and his sons to land directly upon
Jump
the
stab.
planet's surface and go to town.
Ow.
It's important to
That
note
was a
that
nice
allowing him
kick.
and his
That was
sons
a
to
very
land
nice
directly
kick.
upon the planet's surface and go to town.
Wow.
It's important
Jeez.
allowing him and his sons to land directly
Okay, I'm
upon the
sorry.
planet's surface and go to town. It's important to note that this battle was disgustingly vicious, as both sides fought with utter hatred for each other. Eventually, Guilliman found Lorgar and the two Primarchs fought. Guilliman landed an uppercut so hard it made Lorgar's chest explode and punctured his lungs, shattering his ribcage, which Lorgar matched with a mace to G-Man's head, cracking his skull open and tearing off half his face. Angron joined the duel, and now Guilliman had to fight him instead. Yeah, we give our big blue man a lot of shit for being a nerd, but he was able to survive against Angron despite missing half his face and already fighting
I mean, half a face. The other dude has a nail in his head.
another Primarch. Angron went batshit crazy, so Lorgar turned him into a demon,
What do you mean he went batshit crazy? I'm pretty sure that dude's been crazy since he was a baby.
fighting another Primarch. Angron went batshit crazy, so Lorgar turned him into a demon prince. Fair enough. Guilliman, seeing that he would not be able to fight a gigantic fucking demon, decided that he had done enough and yeeted out of there. With the warp storm cutting the galaxy in half and preventing any form of travel or communications, Guilliman assumed the worst, that his father was dead and Terra taken. So he set up Imperium Secundus, which is just a fancy Roman way of saying Imperium 2.0. He
Constantinople.
then fired the Pharos, a mini version of the Astronomicon, which also ended up bringing the Tyranids to the Milky Way, but we don't talk about that.
Nice on
The Pharos
Guilliman.
guided Sanguinius as well as the Lion to Macragge, where the three Primarchs hugged it out and tried to figure out how to build another Imperium. Then Conrad arrived and caused quite the mess of things. However, by the mess he had made, the Lion realized something. For Conrad's vision of his own death at the hands of an assassin sent by the Emperor to come true, the Emperor must be alive. Sanguinius was like, "Holy shit bro, you're right!" The three Primarchs awkwardly pretended like Imperium Secundus never existed, and made their way through the massive warp storm to try to get to Terra. They were blocked by the traitor fleets, however through Guilliman and Lion's efforts, Sanguinius and the Blood Angels were able to get to Terra in time for the battle. Guilliman and the rest of the Loyalists eventually were able to penetrate the traitor blockade and arrive at Terra, but it was too late. The Biggie had become a quadriplegic skeleton. It wasn't, however, too late to clap some cheeks, as the Ultramarines began a purge of the galaxy, massacring and driving off the traitor legions until they were confined to the Eye of Terror. Guilliman then split the legions into 1,000-man strong chapters, so there could never again be another heresy on such a scale. This got Rogel's Russells all jimmied, and it was almost another civil war. However, for once people were like, wow, that would be a really, really stupid thing to do. Hence, Rogel allowed the division of his legion. Guilliman became Lord Regent of the Imperium, and basically held it together, as his brothers began vanishing one by one, until he himself was impaled through the throat by a demon Prince Fulgrim's knife. I know this sounds like an innuendo for a blowjob gone wrong, especially since it was Fulgrim's hentai snake body which did it. However, that was not the case this time. Guilliman was put in stasis and interred into a throne, where he's been waiting until the plot required. Guilliman was put in stasis and interred into a throne,
Like father, like son, huh?
where he's been waiting until the plot required him again. And that does us for today, guys. But Magical, that isn't the entire plot in lore
Oh boy, Timmy, I was waiting for you, Timmy.
of the Ultramarines. You haven't covered the 10,000 years since Guilliman went into a coma, or since his awakening. Shut the fuck up, Timmy. Look, the Ultramarines have a shitload of content, because as stated, they make a shitload of money for Games Workshop. As such, we can either make this video 40 minutes long and read it like a wiki page, or we can break the Ultramarines lore down into sections. The better this video does, the more sections that will involve. In the next Ultramarine video, I want to cover the Ultramarines dealing with the Necrons and Tyranids, as well as the new plot progression caused by didn't say it, by G-Man's resurrection. If you enjoy my videos, then please consider jumping on.
Should we do the second part of this video? Fuck yeah, let's do that shit. I'm interested.
G'day, guys and girl. Last week we took a look at our boys in blue, sussing out their origins, actions during the Great Crusade, as well as the Horus Heresy. Now, as the Great Crusade and Horus Heresy were basically one big phallus-sucking session for the Primarchs, the lore around the actual legions take a back seat. However, post-Heresy, all the Primarchs have either become hentai monsters, run off into the warp, been killed, or they've just gone into a coma. Hence, it was the Space Marines' time to shine. And shine they did, as despite their God Emperor being technically dead, their fathers dead or missing, and new terrifying enemies like the Tyranids and Necrons emerging, as well as the new threat of chaos, the Imperium remains somewhat functional. If you haven't seen part 1 of this video where I talk about the Ultramarines and Guilliman pre-Horus Heresy, then I highly recommend you check that out first. As before, we don't like to go for the basic shit jokes on this channel, so we take it one step further. Hence, no Ultramarine shall be known as Smurf or Papa Smurf, as that joke was never funny to begin with. Let's get into it. Leading off from last video, Guilliman has had his throat penetrated by Fulgrim and is now in a very uncomfortable upright position coma. The age of the Primarchs is over, and now the Space Marines gotta step up. Except that nothing really happens for like 10,000 years. The Horus Heresy happens, then all the way until the 40th millennium, literally nothing happens. Like, there's the rise of the ecclesiarchy, and then there's a bunch of pedos with pointy hats, and then a bunch of religious bullshit happens, but it barely involves the Space Marine legions, as the Marines continue to kick Xeno ass and let the High Lords just massacre each other. A good recap of the bullshit that happens in 30k gets nicely covered in If the Emperor Had a Text-to-Speech Device, so yeah, it's basically just the Imperium decaying into a technologically stagnant, superstitious feeding ground for chaos. The Ultramarines and their intense awesomeness are flung back into the spotlight with the coming of the Tyranids. You might be sitting there like, oh yeah, our Ultra Wanks are gonna squash some bugs. However, the Ultramarines had lost something even more valuable than their Primarch. Matt Ward. No longer would Matt stroke his neckbeard and ultra jizz onto our delicious blueberries. Logic and reason had returned in full force, and the Ultramarines were about to suffer a mighty blow to their scrotums as they faced off against the space bugs of death. The Ultramarines, led by Manius Calgar, fortified the tits out of Macragge and recalled thousands of Astartes to come up as well as multiple Titans. They literally could not have been any more prepared, even if they wanted to, and yet the Hive Fleet behemoth came like a tidal wave, washing away the Ultramarines and slaughtering their armies. Calgar himself got completely emascerated, losing his limbs and only surviving due to the sacrifice of his honor guard. It was only through some ultra cheese in the form of a warp drive detonation that the Ultramarines achieved survival and destroyed the Tyranid Hive Fleet. Sensing their plot armor fading away, the Ultramarines were humbled, yet still proud as hell. An unexpected byproduct of not being Mary Sue's meant that the Ultramarines were suddenly becoming likable. Still a meme for sure, but a welcome one. Their pride and honor became an entertaining staple of their personalities, not just a leftover wank of an overzealous Games Workshop writer. The Ultramarines became more flexible with their adherence to the Codex Astartes, a book written by Guilliman on how to be a good little space marine, hence begun having more success in grittier and more flexible warfare. With the Ultramarines decimated, it was up to the 4th Company to secure Ultramar, as various xenos scum had come into the region to take advantage of its lack of defences. The 4th Company brought down the pain on some green-skinned sluts, before travelling the galaxy and clapping so many xeno cheeks it made Slanesh blush. They killed Tau, they killed the Kroots, they killed greenskins. They did avoid killing Elder, however, as we established, the
I am really wondering one thing. Why don't the Tau, be like, hey brothers, y'all cool, we cool, why we not cool? Like, they don't seem like that big of a xeno cunts, They seem kinda decent. The Taus, the Taus. So why not, like, handshake? Let's be cool.
Ultramarines love them some big titty elder girlfriends. It was about this time that Uriel Ventris rose to prominence in the 4th Company due to his supreme ability to kick ass, and he also held quite a lot of plot armor that the Ultramarines revered so dearly. Now, the Codex Astartes isn't a bad book in terms of tactics. It was written none other than Guilliman, who was a beast when it came to military strategy. The problem was, well, it was a bit outdated. It's 6 times older than the Bible, and it did not take Tyranids or Necrods into account. Hence, with Uriel and his company facing a massive array of different threats, he had to bend the rules a bit. After commandeering a Death Watch squad and injecting the Tyranid Queen with a deadly strain of AIDS, he had once again led his company to victory at massive cost. Upon his return to Macragge, all the boomers were like, "You're a heretic," and even Calgar was like, "Listen here, you little shit. You defying a holy ultra wank book, now you must die via suicidal mission." Hence, Uriel went on arguably the most horrific quest ever. Now, if you've seen Luton's video on the Homokyonobli, fuck, I suck at pronouncing shit. It's probably because I just misspell everything in the script. I just make my life really hard. Then you know what I'm talking about. But basically, Uriel was taken into the Eye of Terra and inserted into a giant vagina of some poor woman who was basically pumped full of steroids until she'd eventually explode and new Chaos Marines would claw their way out of her. It was seriously fucked up. The artwork's disgusting. I highly recommend you don't look it up. After escaping the Eye of Terror, but doing some questionable shit along the way, Uriel was captured by the Grey Knights, who mind-raped him to see if he was corrupted by chaos after being literally rebirthed. Surprisingly or unsurprisingly, if you know anything about the Ultramarine characters and their plot armor, Uriel was free of chaos and returned to Macragge, where he then got mind-raped again by the Ultramarine Librarians. Uriel retook command of the 4th Company. The Iron Warrior commander who was in charge of the daemon aka Vaginas experiment was understandably pissed that his gargantuan vages had been decommissioned, hence he swore revenge against Uriel, making an evil clone of him and enlisting the help of a demon prince. He gathered a huge army of demons, mercenaries and Chaos Marines to attack Ultramar and get revenge, but well, you don't just
Bro, this dude over here is dead as fuck. Maybe if you wear a helmet, you might survive, my guy. Pew!
Attack Ultramar, my dude. Just because Matt Ward isn't there to suck them off anymore doesn't mean they still aren't the greatest Marines in the galaxy. The demon invasion was massacred and Uriel once again maintained his status as a total ass kicker. Some years later, Abaddon the shit cunt who took 13 crusades to finally make an impact, destroyed Cadia, which was very bad for the galaxy. Fleeing Cadia was everyone's favourite mechanical hentai monster Belarius Call, as well as a merry band of pretty cool characters, including Saint Celestine, Inquisitor Greyfax, Yvraine.
Wasn't this...
Pretty cool characters, including Saint Celestine.
Is this the saint that later gets killed by the fucking Chaos War guy's chosen guy? I forgot the name. We watched the video yesterday. The one from the World Enders. The one that has a kill count. Is this the saint that gets killed by him, or is it a different chick?
Inquisitor Greyfax, Yvraine, and the Visrach. For the past 10,000 years, Call was tasked to try and figure out how to bring back Guilliman back to life. And he finally had all the pieces he needed. Hence the group headed back to Macragge.
Jesus.
Abaddon was suspicious that such a distinct and unusual group of protagonists was heading towards a loyalist Primarch. Hence, Abaddon then launched a massive invasion of Macragge to try to stop them. The group reached Calgar, who was suspicious of why they were all teamed up with Elder and shit, but with the world about to fall, he decided he had to let them through. They performed the ritual and G-Man came back to life at the last second. Now the way I say it makes it sound really unimpressive, but in the book it's dope as fuck. Basically what happens is, he stands up and everyone stops fighting for a couple seconds. Everything goes quiet and he's just standing there and it's like the god is back. And then the silence is broken by some Cornite berserker who goes full Leroy Jenkins mode and jumps at Guilliman, and Guilliman just swats the cunt. He then just full balls to the walls charges into battle and kills everything that resembles chaos. Very cool. Guilliman retook command of Ultramar and assembled a mighty fleet in which he intended to use to get back to Terra with. However, Magnus, the only Primarch who was a bigger fucking nerd than Guilliman, decided he wanted to kill our beloved Aryan overlord. Hence he threw a massive warp storm out there and periodically raided the fleet with demons and negative emotions. Eldrad attempted to aid Guilliman by directing him through the storm. However, Kairos Fateweaver was able to capture the Primarch and his warriors and lock them away. Very sad. However, the plot continued on as Cypher, the random fallen Dark Angel, frees Guilliman and friends on the condition that he be allowed an audience with the Emperor. What begins as a mad dash by Guilliman and friends to get to a portal leading to the moon of...
Yeah, this dude looks fucking awesome. God damn, brother.
Terra, whilst Magnus chased them. A big battle was fought upon the moon as Guilliman and his survivors had to hold off Magnus off long enough for the Elder to seal the warp gate off. Guilliman faced Magnus in single combat, which is a pretty ballsy move by him, considering that Magnus was a demon prince Primarch, infused with shitloads of magic and warp stuff. Guilliman
and he has pointy nipples.
Showed us just how big his balls were, as during the...
And Guilliman at this point I think had the Emperor's sword, which is pretty cool. It has flames on it. Look at it. It is cool.
Fight, Magnus burnt him with warp fire, threw a building at him, and was just an arsehole about the whole thing. In return, Guilliman broke his jaw with a fat left hook, and survived long enough for Magnus to be banished. After the battle, Guilliman was like, okay, big, crusade to get home. Had to fight my brother, let me just take a breather for a bit. Nope. But Khorne was like, suck me off, G-Man, and launched a fuck huge invasion of Terra that was hard and fast, killing shitloads of custodians. However, they were defeated by G-Man and his pals. Guilliman then went and had a heart-to-heart with his dad for an entire day. Now, we don't know what was actually said between the two. However, there is a fan-made story of their conversation which is so good that everyone who read it basically just considers it canon. I'll link it in the description, but basically the Emperor greets Guilliman with joy of a returned Primarch, but also expression of disappointment and frustration with, how everything's turned out. It's a great read. Guilliman takes his father's sword, which ignites with fire in his grip, and
he didn't have the sword before? I thought he had the sword when he was fighting Magnus.
He declares himself the Big G, before leading a massive purge of Terra's chaos cults and xenos. No one was safe as Guilliman had a no bullshit tolerance policy. Nobody, not even a High Lord of Terra, could stand in his way. There was an extremely rich and influential politician that tried to hold his assets ransom against Guilliman to try to swindle him, so Guilliman dragged the man into the streets and had him flogged. For context, this would be like if Jesus came back to life and dragged Trump by his saggy ballsacks into Times Square.
I'm pretty sure a lot of Americans would love to see that shit.
Then beat the shit out of him while everyone watched. Guilliman then activates Order 69 and awakens Cole's master project, the Primaris Marines, who we all know and love. From Terra, armed with a flaming sword bathed in disgusting levels of psychic energy, courtesy of his disabled daddy, backed up by a metric shit ton of Primaris Marines, Guilliman launched the Indominus Crusade, which was the largest gathering of Imperial ships and warriors since the Great Crusade. See, the fall of Cadia had torn the galaxy in half and allowed demons and chaos to rampage everywhere, destroying countless planets and killing trillions of people. And boy oh boy did this guy put on his Bob the Builder hat. The Indominus Crusade tore across the galaxy, massacring chaos wherever it found it. Guilliman had organised the crusade to a T. Everything was planned out and perfect, and it showed. As the crusade continued to anally penetrate the warp, various small battle groups were deployed to each loyalist chapter and provided them with Primaris reinforcements. Some of these chapters were like, "Thank fuck bro, give me some of that," and some chapters were like, "We don't like your kind around here." However, even the most stubborn chapters eventually accepted the Primaris reinforcements when the Custodians rocked up and said that the Big A wanted them to have Primaris. Fair enough. During the Crusade, Calgar entered into a duel with Abaddon and was somehow able to hold his own against him for a time, only seemingly losing because Abaddon and his max level legendary gear, whilst Calgar is still grinding to get past mid-level epic gear. Despite both of his hearts getting pierced, Calgar walks it off and survives the encounter, which is pretty stupid, as it would have been a good time for him to die, especially since G-Man is back running the Ultra Show. Eventually Mortarion and his Death Guard attack Ultramar, which pulls Guilliman's attention away from the Crusade. Guilliman declares the Crusade complete and allows the Imperium's armies to disperse across the galaxy and continue retaking planets, killing anything that had a tentacle. Guilliman bolted back to Ultramar, and one of those classic Games Workshop wars happened where despite massive casualties and death and widespread conflict, nothing actually happens. Guilliman rocks up, retakes territory, kills some known...
How accurate is that statement? I haven't been... Your boy's not that deep into the lore, but how accurate is that statement?
...name greater demons, has a duel with Mortarion, and then Mortarion gets recalled by Papa Nurgle to go fight against the other Chaos Gods. Kind of lame, to be honest. Primarch fights are so rare these days, considering there wasn't any loyalist ones for ages, so it's good to see some impact when they do encounter each other. Mortarion at least deserved a good kick up the ass for being a whiny little bitch all the time. You would have thought 10,000 years was enough time to get over his daddy issues, but I guess not. Now no Ultramarine would be complete without Cato Sicarius! Old mate Cato continued his cheese and survived everything that was thrown at him. He was present for the resurrection of Guilliman and accompanied on his way to Terra, being one of the few people to survive the horrific journey. After Guilliman spoke with the Emperor, Cato was commanded to return to Ultramar and help sort some shit out. Cato's ship got lost in the warp, and the forces of chaos attempted to perform hentai on him. But this is Cato, motherfucking Sicarius we're talking about here. The best Ultramarine ever. No, the best Space Marine ever. And he survived the warp and returned to Daddy's side during the Indominus Crusade.
I don't know this guy. Who this guy? He that special or is Mage Q just memeing?
Guilliman was like, God damn, this guy's a little fag. And he did his best to teach Cato the ways of not being an obnoxious little asshole all the time. These teaching combined with Cato's mental trauma and survivor's guilt from his time in the warp has helped shape him into a somewhat likable character. Which means he'll probably get killed off soon. Bummer. The Plague Wars are Guilliman's most recent escapade, and he hasn't been explored much in the Psychic Awakening yet. Guilliman's next challenge, however, should not just be another Demon Primarch or Xeno threat. No, his next challenge needs to be the return of another loyalist Primarch. Vulcan, the Khan, the Lion, Korax and Lehman are all probably alive and could return at any moment. Hell,
how about we dedicate another 10,000 years for, you know, maybe Sanguinius? Maybe? Please? Come on, I love that dude. That dude is pretty cool.
Even Rogel has a good chance of reappearing. The return of a brash and intense Primarch such as the Lion or Lehman could be interesting, as they would be extremely disgusted with the state of the Imperium and may not agree with Guilliman's policies. Other than the obvious hype of Return Primarch, this would present a fresh, original threat and give the story more interesting options on how to proceed. For this, I'd love to see the Lion return, as I think it would fit best in with creating a conflict with Guilliman, as well as exploring the present-day Dark Angels, who have done basically fuck all. And that does us for today, guys. Over the course...
Okay, can we stop having conflicts between the, the cool dudes, the non-Chaos cunts? Listen, Chaos has like fucking 50 Primarchs now. We need to stop killing each other and start killing them, please. And it's not enough that they have 50 Primarchs, they have fucking Ultraroid Primarchs on steroid, Chaos steroids up the ass. That shit's not cool, okay? We need some of those guys to, die and shit. And not resurrect like the other cunt that resurrects every like 5 years. Fucking world eater. Or like dick eater. Yeah, okay. Okay. Anyway, that was the Ultramarines explained by an Australian part 1 and 2. Let me know what y'all think. Should we check out some more Ultramarine Warriors videos and shit? I'm planning for tomorrow. I'm probably gonna check out the Legion of the Damned lore. I kind of want to check out someone else's video. Like, we've been checking out a lot of mage kills, so let me know whose video we should do. Maybe Lutin or what's the other dude? The one with the long name that does like little short stories before his videos. Maybe him. He seems pretty cool. Maybe Arch if he has some video on the topic. Anyway, let me know what y'all think for tomorrow, and have a nice fucking day. Like, comment, subscribe. Yeah, bye bye.